Welcome! On this show, we share people's stories about life's adventures, especially navigating those bumpy roads and the lessons we can all learn. This is Dirt Road Journeys. I'm Rob Statham. My guest today is a wine, spirits, and beer expert. He has an extensive background in the hospitality industry. He has made multiple television appearances to share his expertise, and he has a growing YouTube channel. All of that centered around his company, the Drunken Grape. From Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, Rob Statham. A fellow Canadian. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, I'm glad you had some time to come on the show. I think you're one of the only people who is in this space, this wine and beer space, in the digital space.
Yeah, it's funny because I know there's a couple others. I know my a wine mentor of mine and a really good friend of mine that I met through the digital space, Jennifer Simonati-Bryan, Master of Wine, is effective in the digital space. There's a couple up and coming. There's my friend Marley Alpers, who works with, I'm trying to remember the name of the company. It's like a network marketing company with wine that's really taking off in the States. Scout and Cellars, I believe, is the name of it, or Scout and Cellar. And she's making a presence now on it, but there's not a lot of people in my space because it's really shrouded in traditional academics. Because I mean, just to get certified and just to keep moving along on courses as they get ever, exponentially more difficult, there's such an academic basis to them. I think it attracts academia, and the problem with academia is, do they really know how to sell and market in the digital space? Or really, do a lot of them even know how to sell and market traditionally or into the digital space at all? And I think that's really why you haven't seen a lot crossover, because like anything, it's a unique talent to be able to communicate and really express yourself live or on video.
Sure. So why did you just decide, well, actually, let me back up. So tell me about the Drunken Grape. What do you do at the Drunken Grape?
Well, I do live and virtual events. It started off as a live event platform. I started this back in 2015. I'd worked with a company called Groovy Grapes. They decided to close their doors. And they had made a couple pitches prior to that about me taking it over as a franchisee, and I didn't want to. The opportunity just wasn't there financially. It wasn't viable, didn't make any sense. The return on investment wouldn't have been there. So I decided to branch out on my own. And really, when I went into the wine and spirits and beer world, my focus long-term was to work for myself. I already had a job, and I continue to work actually part-time bartending at a hotel. They have comedy shows there now, so it's a fun gig. But at that time, I was landlocked to it, and I wanted to free myself into something I built for myself. Now, it's not easy. It's a very up and down road. And it's funny how Dirt Road Journeys, just the title of this show, really reflects the journey that a lot of us take if you want to become a high-end professional or you want to open up your own road and really build the road of entrepreneurship. So that's really what led me to it. And at the point I started really wanting to do some branding, I was on TV and I was focusing on helping, your more local or craft operations, particularly in the wine and beer worlds, really market and brand themselves on television. And of course that translated to online. So I made the shift to online. And it was always a dream to take everything virtually. I always had this dream that I could be on the back of a yacht, sailing around the world. And there you are on your computer. You got your liquor supply with you, or your beer or wine supply, and you're hosting an event for somebody. And you could do this around the world, or having a passive income through a YouTube channel, for instance, or some medium of a podcast. And, Rob, had you said prior to the pandemic that virtual events would really have taken off, I would have laughed at you, because, the world was still locked, even though all the technology was there, especially the video conferencing tech.
Yeah.
This really exploded during the pandemic.
Sure.
And now there's a lull for virtual events. But it's only a temporary lull because people want to get back together. Wait until the accountants of all these major companies or small and mid-sized profit centers, these profitable entrepreneurially based businesses, look at the costs racketing up again hosting live events versus the virtual ones that they had experienced with over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to roar back to virtual. You're not affected by inclement weather. You're not mostly affected by inclement weather. I mean, if a storm the size of half the planet hit, I'm pretty sure that digital will be knocked out too. But chances of that are very small. It wipes out travel, and traveling costs are going to shoot through the roof with the insane gas prices that we're experiencing. You know, there's this 2030 pipe dream of Klaus Schwab, and this twisted organization called the World Economic Forum thinks that we can just hit the switch on electric and kill oil and gas. And it's just not realistic at all. We're nowhere near there. But because of all this, the cost of everything skyrockets. It's just going to become far more feasible to go right back to hosting virtual events. You also don't have to worry about all the time and effort from somebody internally on your own events team or the office manager planning this whole thing and taking them away from, you know, key company activities that they should be involved in, like driving revenue, for instance, or supporting the operation to drive more revenue, as well as all these exorbitant costs and live events that could be just put back into increasing salaries. We know salaries have to go up with inflation. That's another problem that's occurring right now. The other part of it is you can pay people better and you can equip them with better equipment and better training themselves. So why would you just waste it all on the old style traditional event?
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious to see where this goes, because the pandemic was certainly a catalyst for change in terms of what happens in the digital space. And now it's interesting because you've got all these companies saying, hey, come on back to the office. And you've got a whole bunch of staff saying, no, we're not interested in that. And so we're having to really adjust and accommodate for the values that people have discovered they want to prioritize. So I think you're right. For me, I think the virtual space is probably not going away anytime soon. In fact, I think it's only going to grow once we realize, not only the profit benefits, but the convenience benefits as well. So.
Yeah, well, it's like anything virtual right now. I mean, you even look at the cryptocurrency market that, I invest in. A lot of people don't understand this. The ignorant investor to crypto says, you guys can't get yields or dividend returns and that, you're morons. Well, yes, you can. You stake your cryptocurrency into projects, or you stake it onto a platform, and you're getting the 6 to 8 to 10 to 15% residuals coming in, month out, while you stake that crypto. That is a dividend cut. That is interest on your investment. On top of that, it's in a digital space. So right now we're seeing that whole market crash a bit, but we're seeing stocks crash even harder in reality. It's all the currency printing that's happened by, central banks counterfeiting their own currency to buy more assets and to flood the economy with cheap dollars when half the population wasn't working at times due to lockdowns, right? So, you look at this, that whole thing is temporary. So if that's temporary, and we know cryptocurrencies are here to stay, it's peer-to-peer, it's private, removes the middleman called the bank. You can secure your assets privately in a crypto wallet. And if one country bans them, you're just going to move to another country that allows it anyway. You're just going to move as a digital nomad and say, see you later. And the whole virtual experience is only going to increase with that. Because think about it. Who are the people that invest in this? They're mostly younger people. You got some into Generation X like yourself and I, right? But at the same time, it gives them mobility financially. And if you have financial mobility, you're going to focus on business and career mobility, which means you're just going to plug more into virtual platforms, podcasts, virtual online presentations. You're going to host them. That's how you're going to make your money.
Yeah.
Or conducting training and seminars. I mean, webinars have become incredibly effective at this. You no longer need to sit in a classroom to get educated. You really don't.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think generational turnover is going to be a huge factor in how we do things down the road too. So you've been doing this like 10 years, right? So what made you...
Well, about 7 actually, but
7?
Six now, 6.5 on my own. It's getting near the 7-year mark.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a while. Did you ever think when you left the other company, did you ever think, well, I got to go find another job? What was sort of the thing for you to say, I'm going to...
No, I was set more on becoming even more free. So with them, you're right. The journey is over 10 years along for me, but being out on my own is 6 and change. So I should correct that just for all the viewers out there that are watching this right now or listening in on their favorite, streaming network for podcasts. But I had a vision to just go out on my own. I had no interest to work for somebody else.
Right.
Because, you just keep planning working for somebody else. You're never getting ahead. Have you ever known anybody that was permanently a slave to somebody else, unless they were at the top end of their profession that made it?
Yeah, it's It's one of those things. I'm not that jobs are bad, right? Like we need people in jobs, but there are certain people that I think are just not a good fit for a traditional job. And there are characteristics of those people that sort of make them move into doing their own thing, right? And a lot of it is having your own self-drive.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You have to be self-actualized. You have to be willing to get up in the morning. Like my girlfriend who works for a university, and she's diligent. She's up in the morning. She works 3 days a week from home. It's funny because they wanted them all to return to the office, but they're in a union environment, and the union said, hell no. So they have muscle to push back on the employer. So the employer agreed, and they wanted them to do 3 days a week, and they caved it too. And it works because I tell you what, she is up in the morning at 8 a.m, logged on. She's answering emails. She's talking to her boss. She's reaching out to students that need help with clearing hurdles to, doing back screening checks and all sorts of things. And that international students coming into med school, that's the department she works in, is the School of Medicine. And she looked at me and she said, wow, you doesn't take anyone to get you out of bed to work on your podcast, launch out some sales calls. Right now, I'm just trying to finish off a course to advance my own education. So I've actually put much of the business development on hold because you only have so many days in an hour, so many hours in a day, but it's all progress moving forward because the more education, more skills, and deeper you go in your field, well, you're billable, so you can command more coming out of it. You can command more of an audience because your skills are deeper and better. You should always be sharpening the toolkit, always sharpen the toolkit. And it really takes self-motivation and inspiration. A lot of mine comes from my dad. He inspired me to come into this field. And from my late sister, my late twin sister was there for a couple of my TV spots in my studio, always watched what I was doing on television and was really inspired. She was really inspired by what I was doing and would motivate me to go further. And they're really my two linchpins that really keep me going. I won't lie to you. The journey is never easy once you make it to 7-8 digits and you've sold the business for 7 or 8 digits, then I can say your journey has become easy. Like our friend Scotty Schindler worked his way there. His journey is now easy. But I bet you if you ask Scotty, hey, Scotty, was it easy for the first 20 years with Renet? He would probably want to slap you through the computer screen. He's in Australia. But the reality is he worked his ass off. And the reality is there were days where, like any of us, you're like, why am I still doing this? And there has to be a deeper meaning than money. Money cannot be your driver. For me, it's absolute freedom is my bigger driver. Money, how much money do you need to really be free? I mean, it depends where you live. If you're in Costa Rica or one of these lower cost economies, I'm pretty sure $250,000 in zero debt would go far for you. But if you're in a high cost economy like Canada, and we're pricing ourselves right out of the market, probably need $2 million to be saying the same thing.
Yeah, depending on where you live in Canada, right?
Yeah, if you're in Toronto or Vancouver, I'd be saying $2 million is what you would need to be functioning.
Yeah, it is getting tough. It's getting tough for people out there. Hey, by the way, Scotty Schindler, he's come up in a couple of conversations on different programs. We're going to have him on the program.
Yeah, he's great.
So, yeah, he's a good guy. We'll chat with him about his business journey too. So when did you start the podcast?
Wow. So the podcast is a recent journey, much like yours, coming together. I, like you, you're a broadcaster by trade. My experience
was way back in the previous life.
But it trained you how to be a good public speaker and presenter. I mean, you're comfortable on camera and on video.
I'm shaking the rust off in this exercise.
That's cool, though. But hey, it's like riding a bike. You're back up in no time. Yeah. But for me, I was in the cruise line industry. I was an assistant cruise director, and I auctioned artwork and sports memorabilia. So I was up in front of crowds of up to 1,500 people talking.
Yeah.
Every cruise, all the time, day in and day out, week in and week out for years. And that allowed me to really make the sprint into video. And when I saw what other people are doing on LinkedIn and they're building up their following, and I was like, wait a second, I'm 10 times better than they are at this because of my background. I don't have to catch up to speed. Some of them have since become spectacular. Some of them still struggle. I think it's partly a natural skill set that develops, and the other part of it's learned when it comes to public speaking. And I always say, join something like Toastmasters. If you don't know what to do, it's free. You can sign up. You can join these organizations where you have to get up and present. And once you can present in front of 10 or 20 people, you can present in front of the world, really. It's no different. So I start off with video. And I always had a concept of doing a podcast. So I set up a YouTube channel, and I was doing like mini happy hours, and I was starting off with like showcasing. I actually started off by just showcasing different wine and beer in the pandemic. This is where I really took the channel off. Before that, I would just use it as a springboard to upload the DVDs cut into MP4 format into video for my TV spots, because at the point you used to have to buy them, and now they just send you the link, but they control the link. So this was years in development. I was thinking, there's so many people swirling a glass in their face, and I started out this way too in wine and beer and spirits world, giving their tasting notes and their impressions of it, what's in the glass, what's behind that grape. And these are fascinating discussions, but I wanted more. And I said, well, there's got to be more to it. So why not revamp this, up the ante? And I created the virtual happy hour experience, which really I've now broken it down to just the happy hour experience with the Drunken Grape, or the happy hour with the Drunken Grape, because it's easier to remember. It's easier to follow on a YouTube channel. But the theme is extraordinary drinks with extraordinary people. You have great drinks and you break bread over drinks, over a discussion of their personal journey, their career or entrepreneurial journey, or what got them to build a charitable organization, or something extraordinary that they're doing.
Yeah.
And that is the emphasis and focus of my podcast. It's really about showcasing them while breaking down drinks and sort of showcasing to the people glimpses. The audience gets to see a glimpse of how virtual tastings are conducted.
I think
and they get to learn more about alcohol while having an listening to engaging conversations, because engagement is the fundamental backbone of all of this.
Yeah. 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 So, hey, so you've had some really good guests on the program, right? Like,
yeah, is fun there stuff. I got to get you on there soon, but
yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Do you have a favorite so far?
I
know that's tough because
I have favorites.
Yeah.
There's a few that really have come to mind with some brilliant conversations. Alex Charterisky, friend of mine who's an SEO, search engine optimization expert. He built, I don't know if you heard of Boater Exam Online, but everybody that has to have a pleasure boat operating license.
Yeah.
He was one of the first companies, or the first company that really dominated in Canada and into North America. It went huge. Yeah.
This is a Canadian thing,
helping these people issue or get these licenses through Fisheries and Oceans Canada and the Coast Guard to be licensed to operate their pleasure boats and fishing boats. I mean, really, it was a tax grab by the government, but they did not want to handle the tax grab themselves. They outsourced it to private companies that qualified to do it. Yeah. And one of the main owners in that company, or the main owner of that company, had worked for Fisheries and Oceans and had an inside scoop. But he retired early, I believe, to set this business up, because legally he had to separate himself from this concept. But my friend Alex is a very brilliant, he's a computer math expert and computer scientist. So he knew how to build websites, do all the back end. So he was their technologist. And he's one of my favorite people. I had... Scott Mason talking about how it was to transform his life to move forward, where he was a gay minority, part Black or African American man, part of the LGBTQ community, growing up in a religious community in in Kansas, and how he had to break that mold, and how he moved to New York City, and how he's become like a top level attorney. He's a C-suite executive. He's a business coach. I mean, some of these people are incredible. You have Nancy Burroughs, who broke the cycle of abuse. She had abuse from a family member on herself at an early age. Imagine the psychosis that would have developed. And she broke it. She broke it to become a highly functional, great member of society. There's just so many, Rob. I mean, trying to think of how many episodes I've done now, or probably about 40 different happy hours. There was 25 in the first season. I believe we're on season 2 with 14. I mean, they come out most weeks, not every week. It's always a challenge at times to get the right person on set. And some of the people coming back are returning guests. I love having Jennifer Simonati Bryan on, because she just brings so much joy and simplicity and passion to the world of wine, while being one of the foremost, deepest minds within the wine world worldwide. And she makes it easy and fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's just a beautiful woman that's got so much charisma and character and just such raw humility that comes with it. It's just, yeah, I've been blessed to have incredible people on the show.
So there it is. There's an overview of what you might see if you check out the YouTube channel, Happy Hour with the Drunken Grape, right?
Yes. Yeah. The happy hour with the Drunken Grape.
I think that's great.
You know, and the playlist is the virtual happy hour experience.
Excellent. Hey, what were some of the tough things about getting that started? I mean, not just the podcast, but the business itself, right? Like the pandemic obviously was a challenge for all of us with having to adapt.
Well, my business was a challenge to begin with. I came into a business that Ottawa's pretty politically corrupt. I mean, I'm going to be honest about
it's a government town, right? That's our capital. Like Canadians,
and bureaucracies love, you know, rubbing up to other bureaucrats. Bureaucrats love bureaucrats. They love political power. That's academics would never get power through proper private sector forces. They have to usually go through the route of government to do it. So all these people are buddies with each other. There's a big clique. It's a brutal clique. I mean, they're nice on the surface. They're nice people to meet and talk to, and I know some of them quite well. But to crack through the business mold in Ottawa was always a challenge. You have people from the baby boomer generation that still do those same hosted bars with a band playing afterwards, or there's like a plated dinner that goes with it. But as far as the world of wine and beer tasting, not very many players at all. There's one other company now in Ottawa, a Savvy company, and I think they do a pretty good job. I think Debbie Trenholm owns that, and she's been successful with it. You know, and she's broken the mold on some of those things. But generally speaking, a tough gambit. So if anything, the pandemic helped me get out because I all of a sudden picked up clients south of the border. I mean, Kristen Sherry's actually a client of mine that she may come back to do something else in the future with either her husband again or privately or with the business. But I have tech companies that have done events with me. I've also joined a consortium called Cheftorial, which brings the whole virtual dinner party experience to life. So you have a chef, and alongside the chef, there's me talking about booze and how it cuts, complements, contrasts, or balances the dish when you have a food and alcohol pairing with it, right? Cool stuff. And the pandemic really opened the door for us because what happened was those that were politically connected in the city, half of them went out of business. They're just doing the old same expensive $100, $200 a ticket type of event. You know, it's their high flying, same people always walking around from 40 to 60, very little movement of anybody younger coming in. And a lot of this event structure, because they were closed, all these halls and centers were closed. You can't do these types of things virtually. Not only that, none of these people had expertise like a chef or a true full-on sommelier or a beer sommelier or a whiskey expert or bourbon specialist or mixologist that could take their platform live and just move it into the online world. They didn't have those skill sets. So that's really where this part has boomed. I've been very fortunate. I mean, right now it's in a lull. It's been quiet for a few months, and a lot of that has to do with the uncertainty coming out of the pandemic, and people just got exhausted with virtual, and I don't blame them. I was so happy to start sitting down in live events with friends myself. But all this is going to come back. But those are some of the challenges faced along the way. And the other challenge, of course, is how do you level off and eventually build passive income out of everything? Because as an entrepreneur, that is the ultimate form of income you want. And that's, for me, that was also a big blessing of starting the YouTube channel, because YouTube, there's metrics you can do to become, build passive income. You need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours collectively all time, and it'll start to monetize for you.
Sure.
But it's hard to do. Less than 1% of all YouTubers have that. It's a fraction of 1% that have 1,000 subscribers or more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy, right?
And I can tell you, grinding it out. Yeah, I'm grinding it out, and it's gradually growing, but it took a while to learn certain algorithms and certain ways of doing things that enhance the SEO of your channel or the actual videos that you launch. And now it's growing, but I mean, I'm at 375 people after I launched this last April. So the show is 40 weeks old or so. I'm trying to think of how old it is now. It's not quite a year, but it's getting up there.
Slow and steady.
Steady.
If it were easy, everyone would do it, right? Hey, you mentioned Kristen Sherry a little while ago. I just wanted, for context for people, best-selling author. She actually is coming on the program too, so we'll talk with her and get some of her story. But hey, for you, what does success look like? Like you talked earlier about the idea of freedom, maybe living in Costa Rica or someplace like that, where you can get by on not having a whole lot of cash, but
Well,
enough
I
to.
would want to have a whole lot. I would still want to have a whole lot to just go anywhere, really. I want to live
Yeah.
anywhere I can. And
Yeah.
part of that is just having a business model that continues to bring in cash for you. Whether you're working it or not, you can be in bed and money still comes in. And that's part of the passive income picture. But it's, for me, success is quite a few things, actually. You got to have a balance in life. Some people will say the work-life balance is bullshit. I've got friends who's preached that. There's a couple of people we know well on Facebook that preach, or LinkedIn that preach that. But I think it's true in the sense that balance, in the sense of, trying to build everything balanced out from the beginning won't work, because I think humans are built not to multitask. You got to focus on things like a laser at a time. So you got to go really intent into business. But then you got to be intent on your health, and you got to be intent on your love life and your happiness that goes and flows with that.
Yeah.
And I think there's really three pillars that really need to be addressed. It's your health. And I mean, when I say health, it's everything. It's your mental, emotional, physical wellness, right? Your love life must matter. You must have somebody in it that matters, because a big stability. If you don't, then it's a community of people, of great friends and family around you that you've chosen to be part of that community. That's essential. And the labor of love is essential for success.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about retiring with millions of dollars being successful, because there's a lot of retired people with a lot of money that are very unsuccessful in so many other areas of their lives. They're lonely. Their health is the pits. They're 2 weeks away from their heart blowing out of their chest, or cancer or diabetes kicking in. It's because they've neglected so many other things for so long. So it really is about those three things, Rob. It's really your health. And when I say health, that envelops the whole picture of health. Happiness and love ties into, that's the other pinnacle part of it. The other pivotal part of it is the labor of love.
Yeah. I think that's a great definition. Everybody has a different definition of success, right? I think that covers it off well, though, for sure. Hey, if you now could go back and tell younger Rob, give him some advice, tell him what to do, would you do anything differently? Would you tell him to do anything differently? Or
I would. I would say, don't worry about the stupid shit. When you're young, you worry about being popular. You worry about fitting in. Even on, like, it's weird, because even like on Facebook, I've had people from high school connect with me and then detach from me, probably because they may have not liked a couple of my posts or views on things. And that's okay, because everybody should have their own opinion and view. None of it was cantankerous, but it does bring out the sensitivities of people, particularly in our current sensitive world. And I'm a moderate centrist saying this, really. I'm a pretty balanced in-between middle person like yourself. I believe hugely into social progress, but I also believe that you got to have fiscal responsibility. That's sort of where I sit. And I was struggling with this the other day, because I was thinking of somebody that I kind of got along with, but don't really know. And they kind of chopped me off Facebook. And I was just like, well, whatever, and then I realized it doesn't fucking matter. Sorry if I'm swearing on the show for a second, but these are things I would bleep it. These are things I would tell my younger self not to care about, because the reality is they're thinking of nothing about you. You're not even in their thoughts. You're not what matters. I wouldn't worry about, as a younger person, trying to be popular or trying to drive myself socially forward in that fashion. I found social success came along by being yourself and being relaxed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I would just tell myself to relax, be patient, slow down, and focus on things that matter harder.
Yeah.
And forget the rest. Forget the rest of the crap, because it is all noise.
All noise, for sure. Yeah. Hey, where are we headed? Hospitality was one of the industries that was hit really hard, right, over the last couple of years, and was forced to adapt, and it's coming back. People are traveling again. People are staying at hotels again. People are eating at restaurants again. Where is it going, though? Like, for you, where do you see the big picture, and where do you fit into it going forward?
Well, I see it getting more specialized. I see event platforms moving towards virtual or hybrid experiences. The bigger, larger events, hybrid for sure. They're going to have a plug-in element where people can plug in from parts of around the world to enjoy the experience with those that are actually at the event live. I think that part of it's coming into the forum. I think things are going to get more specialized. If you're going to see more of the high end being able to express itself, the skilled bartenders, the sommeliers, the chefs being able to really present, along with some live entertainment. Live entertainers will always have a place in it. I do see that locally speaking, traditional events will stay and survive as far as weddings, 50th birthday parties, things that people will have to get together for that matter. But even then, some of that could go hybrid as well. But that's the side that will probably last the longest and not fold on the live event side. The corporate side of events is definitely going to take a huge hit because of cost. People don't want to put that kind of money. Can you imagine spending $500,000 to fly around 150 people a year to go to various events and conferences? Because that's what it costs.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing it for 50 grand. If you own a company, which number are you going to look at more preferably?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how many board members are sitting around the table going, we could be much more profitable by, taking.
Yeah. Who do we fire right now for allowing this live event to come back that just cost us 300 grand when we did it virtually for 30? Why did they allow this to happen?
Yeah.
I didn't okay this. They just thought they could jump back into the piggy bank because of old habits. There's that element. The other element is hospitality as such really needs to brush itself up big time. In North America, it's a broken system. Nobody's paid well in hospitality. They try to claim servers and bartenders are, but they make money off their tips. They hustle for that. And then you got the idiocy of trying to end tips. That's not going to work. You're just going to have people leave the industry that are skilled. What you should be doing is if you have to raise your prices a little bit, do it, but pay your back end way better. Pay your management way better. Why are you paying somebody 45 or 50 grand a year in a major city to run a multi-million-dollar operation as a GM for you in some cases?
Wow.
Or it pulls in $2 or $3 million a year, and you think it's okay to pay someone $50K with just some basic benefits. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
At a lot of these places, the owners of the past would blow up in their Porsches and have their arm candy beside them, men in particular that would do this. And they would tell their dishwasher that, I'm sorry, I can't give you that week off for that 50-cent raise. But hey, check out my new Porsche Cayenne. It's just like stuff like this has to change.
Yeah.
And what also happens when you underpay is that you get lousy management involved. I know because I see this firsthand. You get people that are underqualified in a lot of cases. They don't know how to manage on the floor. And if you're in a union type environment, they just get squeezed out. And a lot of it is because the ownership is greedy.
Yeah.
Like that has to change. That has to change. If they want to be sustainable in the future, it's like retail. Do you think anybody's going to stay in a shop folding jeans and trying to sell your clothing that has, like, in some cases, 1,000% markup at minimum wage without a stake in it? Or manage your store for 45 or 50 grand a year while the cost of everything balloons around them? Do you think they're going to really stay there? And they're not. These industries are suffering because they did nothing. The smart ones made adaptations and change. The smart kitchens now pay like line cooks that were getting minimum wage $25 an hour. Their management is now paid a lot better. They didn't turn around and steal from the servers and bartenders tip pools to pay for it either. They just got leaner and smarter about how they did things. Maybe they upped the prices a couple bucks, and they explained to the audience, the guests or the customers, saying, we apologize, but we had to in order to retain the talent that we need to retain to move forward to make sure that you continue to get quality on your plate. And if you explain that, your loyal customers are going to go, I got no problems with paying a couple bucks extra. Not for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, a lot of industries are going to have a bit of a shakeup here. I get that business owners are always looking for ways to be more profitable, but in this environment where we're having a big economic shakeup, some things are probably likely to change. They're going to have to if it means life or death for certain businesses, which I think it may well.
And in Canada, absolutely, and in Canada in general, we have a lousy business environment as a first world country. If I have family tied to business in other places, I, like you, have friends who do business or business associates and good friends that are successful in the States, into Australia, into England. All these countries have made it easier for entrepreneurs to succeed. They're not as heavily taxed at a business rate in general either. I mean, our corporate income tax rates are reasonable in Canada, but you get slayed with all kinds of other taxes. Look at gas taxes alone in a country that produces fuel. It's insane. And what happens is these costs get suppressed or they get passed on to the consumer, but companies take out costs going up in other ways too. They reduce wages. They reduce salaries. And Canada's whole private sector picture is a bit of a laughingstock right now. I think it's okay in tech. It's pretty good in oil and gas. It's good at senior levels of banking, but nowhere else in banking. I mean, tellers are paid barely just over minimum wage, which is a joke for somebody who handles your money. On a business that's a multi-billion-dollar operation, shame on all of them. And I'm going to be frank about it. This has to change. It's not a tenable or sustainable model. Baby boomers could get a minimum wage job and feed their wife and a child in the 70s and rent a 2-bedroom apartment for the family and have a car in the driveway.
Yeah, times have changed. And again,
and why? Because we've mismanaged it all. That's why it's changed. It's because we've allowed a whole fiat currency system to explode where our money's backed by nothing. It's not even money. It's currency. It's monopoly money in a board. It's not even real wealth. Yeah. And with that causes inflation, and the purchasing power has just so radically diminished. There's many systemic issues that have to change for us moving forward to clean up the whole picture. And the other one is the rights of employees. I mean, that's come a long way, but there's still work to go.
Yeah. Hey, what's next for you in your business?
Well, that's a great question. I'm starting to look at a few other things into the tech space now. So looking at just how NFTs influence the wine world right now and wine, spirits, and beer world, and coming across some gradually pretty interesting information. That's just, how do I implement that into my business model moving forward that would generate revenue outside of a hype and a craze, but really have something that's functional and feasible for the long term. So I'm always looking at these things. How do you enhance something? But you got to think of how it's not what it's going to do today or tomorrow, but it's just going to be a cash train that you can continue to manage in 5 or 10 years. Is it going to grow from this point forward?
Yeah. One question I want to ask you.
Yeah, man.
I've been doing so, and I expect a pretty spectacular answer to this actually because of the industry you're in, but I've been asking guests, if I come to your town, so if I come to Ottawa, and I've been to Ottawa actually, so I know it a little bit, but not much outside of the downtown area. But if I were to come there, where are you taking me? What do I need to see? Is there a restaurant? Is there a sporting event? Is there a museum? Is there something that is an absolute must in Ottawa?
Yeah, there's a few cool spots in Ottawa. I mean, they've got Lansdowne with the Red Black Stadium for the CFL football. They've rebuilt that whole area, and that whole community is quite spectacular. It's like basically an entertainment city within the city. And it's at the start. It's sort of between Ottawa South and Centertown of Ottawa as you move downtown, and it's not far from downtown. The other part is you obviously have to see the Byward Market around the downtown core with the Parliament buildings. There's a couple really cool places. There's Tavern on the Hill and Tavern at the Falls and Tavern at the Gallery. These are generally neat places to see. They're neat places to go. I like anything because they're seasonal. The service side of it is touch and go and tricky and not great in the beginning, and then they iron out the kinks. So if you come in by like around now, the service levels in those establishments should be strong because now they've got a strong team in place. It's just really hard to build a business that, like a restaurant that's open 6-7 months a year, right? Because you're starting from scratch. You've got some returning people and you can trust them, but the new people, you have to get in the groove, and some work out and some don't. But those are cool spots. The other thing that's cool is the Ottawa River experience. I mean, you can take a riverboat tour or get on a friend's yacht and go down it. pretty awesome. There's a lot going on here. There's the beachhead of Petrie Island. It makes you feel like you're almost at a tropical beach. How the hell am I even in Ottawa? I think but yet it's still in Ottawa. There's all kinds of things. Some of the museums are really cool. There's a lot of neat things to see with that. There's always a festival going on in the daytime. Nightlife needs work in Ottawa. In some elements, it is the town that fun forgot, because they always seem to be pulling the rug on things that bring fun to the city, and that's a challenge. And I think that's partly because it's got too heavy of a bureaucratic mindset. But as far as like historic attractions, you could go hiking up in the Gatineau Hills to William Lyon Mackenzie's old his house or mansion in the Gatineaus that he lived in. There's ruins around the area, all sorts of beautiful hiking trails, kayaking trails. If you come in the winter, there's just a ton of cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, or downhill skiing in the area. There's skating on the canal, as you know of. I mean, there's a ton of things to actually do in the city if you want to come out and check it out.
Terrific. Hey, I'm mindful of time, Rob. I got to wrap this up, but where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube at the Drunken Grape YouTube channel. And I invite you to subscribe. When you do, hit the notification bell and select it all. Smash the likes on the content. Share it. You can find me on Facebook. There's the Drunken Grape Facebook page. I'm on Twitter at the Drunken Grape. Instagram at the Drunken Grape. Pretty much everything at the Drunken Grape. I own the names, and I own the name of the business itself. It's a registered trademark. So there's lots of ways to get a hold of me. You can hit me up at info@thedrunkengrape.com on email as well.
Awesome. Hey,
man, this is fun, Rob.
Yeah, we're going to have to do this again. But thanks for spending some time with me.
Yeah, cheers. And it's good to have a real chat with you as to what's going on. I mean, I don't believe in fluffing anything. And I think authenticity is just absolutely paramount. People need to know the lay of the land and what's happening in my industry and what's going on.
Absolutely. Rob Statham from Ottawa, Canada, the Drunken Grape. This is Dirt Road Journeys on your favorite streaming service. We'll talk to you again soon. I'm Rob Beckford.